Ahoy folks, and welcome back to Broadside Gaming with me, Zug. So, Nightmares and Visions has finally landed. We've had a couple of Ogryn builds. There will be more to come, as we're still working on refining them and getting them to that meta quality that you all know and love. But today, we're going to be taking a look at the Zealot, as it is one of my favourite classes to play. And we're going to be looking at one of my favourite setups that everyone gets very annoyed at me about because, I don't know, reasons. But anyway, let's dive in and see what you're using. So, of course, we're using the Relic Blade because it's my favourite Zealot weapon. And before anyone says anything, yes, I know the dueling sword is king meta, emperor of all meta. I'm just not a big fan of it. I don't like how it plays. I don't find it a fun weapon. That's it. There's nothing wrong with it. It is an amazing weapon. I personally just don't like it. So I use other stuff. Anyway, Relic Blade. How are we building it? Well, first of all, we're going with damage, finesse, heat management, and power output as our main modifiers, and our dump stat is mobility because it's a pointless stat. Yeah, you're a zealot, it doesn't matter. Perk-wise, we're going with carapace and unyielding because the Relic Blade actually has a really nice back-end setup with its breakpoints. So if you've played Vermintide, you may know what I'm talking about, that you used to have to build your gear very specifically to have the exact breakpoints to be able to actually damage your enemies. Now, Darktide doesn't have it as much as like they've really pulled back on that kind of building. But with the Relic Blade, it's got a really nice back end setup, lol, and which means we can be a bit generous with the perks. We don't have to only go for, say, like unarmored and flak because we have to be able to kill the chaff. The Relic Blade can deal with that without any help, which is why we've gone for carapace and unyielding. Carapace is going to allow us to basically trivialize crushers, and unyielding is going to help us absolutely decimate bosses and monstrosities. So that's why we've gone for that. And the blessings, I'm going to give you two ways of doing the blessings actually, because I am so generous. And the first one, cranial grounding, reduces heat buildup by -6% and increases weak spot damage by +4% for 3 seconds on chained weak spot hit. Stacks 5 times, and rampage, hitting at least 3 enemies with an attack increases your damage by 36% for 3.5 seconds. Now, cranial grounding is not difficult to keep running at all because of how the Relic Blade is set up. So the first few strikes of the Relic Blade, especially if you're sprinting in, as you see, you basically, looks like you're about to start jousting with it. The first few hits are nice big overhead strikes. Then the rest of them, until you reset, are big wide sweeps, which are basically there to deal with that chaff. Now we can just reset. And then you're back into the overhead strikes again. Now, the first 3 hits, very, very important. They are what you want to use to basically kill your intended target. For example, this Rager. You want to go in, finish him off before you start dealing with his friends. So God, I can't talk. That is what the initial strikes are for. That is for making your intended target disappear and then allow you to basically lay waste around you with the big, wide sweeps. Now the light attacks, 2 sweeps and a head strike. I really love the attack pattern on this weapon. It's lovely. And of course, you have the activation, which is the biggest part of the sword, which increases your power exponentially. Now, as it is the Relic Blade, you do have to watch out for the heat. But with the blessings you've taken, this will make your job a lot easier. And with the attack pattern that I was just talking about, aiming for those weak spots is very, very easy. Depending on the height of your character, like for me, my character's quite short, so aiming slightly up, you will hit those weak spots. Even if you're just light attack swinging and dealing with chaff, you will be hitting those weak spots quite easily. So that's one reason why I really like the Relic Blade. Now, if that blessing setup isn't what you're really looking for, we can go a very I say a very different way, a slightly different way. So you have cranial grounding and rampage to start off with, and then we can go into, that's exactly the same. Where the other, there it is. Wrath, which is going to give us plus 40% cleave on hit, stacking 5 times, and heat sink, weak spot kills and critical strike kills, reduced heat by 10% over 3 seconds. Now, this is giving you more AoE focus and really leaning into those weak spot kills, making your Relic Blade more efficient. Both ways are very, very decent ways of going. I mean, it just depends how you like, to be honest. Wrath and Heatsink, or you can go for Cranial Grounding and Rampage, or you can mix them up. Like, I always encourage you guys to, you know, fiddle around with these builds, edit them to how you like them. I mean, this is not carved in stone. This isn't the only way to do it. There you go, that's the Relic Blade. Next up is our ranged weapon, the Spearhead Bolt Gun. Now, I really love the Spearhead Bolt Gun. They've made it a lot better than it was. For the first, I don't know, 2 years of its existence, it was basically a pile of crap and completely unusable. But now, they have actually fixed it. It no longer jumps around like a greased puppy when you're trying to snipe it. Like so. It is a relatively useful weapon now for dealing with anything at long range. But the main point to the weapon is, if you have crushers or big groups of heavily armoured enemies bearing down on you, you just mag dump into the entire group. And with its ability to penetrate, you can basically kill large groups of these if they're very tightly bunched up. And also, I wouldn't suggest this all the time, especially not in Havoc where ammo is at a premium, but if you need to, and you're in a pinch, you can force a bulwark to open its shield a bit. It usually takes 4 to 5 shots, but it does stagger open the shield. And then, of course, don't miss all your shots afterwards like I just did. Now, this brings us on to a point of contention with some people because of how I build it. Now, we'll talk about the modifiers first, and then we'll get on to that. So, damage, reload speed, collateral, and stability are our main modifiers, and our dump stat is mobility because it's not good. And everything else is quite important to this, especially like reload speed, collateral, and stability are a must. If you really want to, you can drop damage for mobility, but again, pointless. Because let's do an example. This is the current gun with the modifiers how I like them. We'll just mag dump. And then we reload. It's quite arduous. Now, if you were to dump reload, as your dump stat, it becomes even worse. It is noticeably slower. And with a weapon like this, you really don't want to spend most of your time reloading. I know it's not a wildly fast increase, but it is enough of an increase to be noticeable, which is why I would say reload speed really should not be your dump. Now for the perks, Flak and Unyielding. Flak because it's the most prevalent armor type in the game. Unyielding because this weapon is absolutely amazing for dealing with bosses that you can't get to. For example, Beasts of Nurgle or a Chaos Spawn that's just being an arse. I mean, most of the time, if you can follow the attack patterns, you can just bob and weave and not get hit. But there are times when that isn't possible. So the unyielding damage is just there to make sure that bosses go away, basically. And the Spearhead Bolt Gun is one of the best ways of doing that on the Zealot. Now, for the points of contention I was talking about earlier, which is the blessings. There are a few ways you can do this. I prefer this one. Pinning Fire gives us plus 5% strength for every enemy you stagger, stacks 5 times. And Puncture, ranged hits add 4 stacks of bleed to the enemies. Now, we aren't actually using the bleed talent. And you think, why are you using bleed on your gun? Because bleed stacks are stupidly overpowered at the moment. So bleed, soulfire, burning, all of those sorts of things are wildly overpowered. And hopefully they'll stay like that. But this is giving us a level of damage we wouldn't otherwise have. Because sometimes you cannot guarantee that in a big pile of mobs that you're going to be able to clear all of them out in one mag. Especially if you're playing higher difficulties and you need that mob to go. But with this, it's going to be laying down a lot of bleed stacks. And the more you hit them, the more bleed stacks are going to tick, sorry. And especially with monstrosities, which you can't kill in one, mag dump. The tick stacks are going to stack and stack and stack. And it's going to give you your time to kill. It's going to decrease wildly. Now, some people really don't like that. So if you don't like puncture and pinning fire, there are other options for you. Do I have it on the other one, or is that set up the same? I mean, you can go for frenzy fire and pinning fire, or you can go for shattering impact and pinning fire. Completely up to you. I just like puncture because I can see what it's actually doing. It is increasing your damage exponentially, but not in a very visible way. Just bleed stacks are horrifically overpowered. It's great. Anyway, that's enough talking about the setup. So look, quick look at the Curios, and we will move on to the talents. Now, they are all +1 wound because, yes, this is a martyrdom build. Now, every single one of them has +5 toughness and 4% ability regeneration on them, and one of them has +12 stamina regeneration and 20% damage resistance to gunners. Now, if you really want to, you can get rid of all the damage resist for more stamina regen or toughness regen. I just prefer this setup. I do occasionally drop this Curio, the +1 wound, for a toughness Curio, basically set up exactly the same. So if you don't want to run +3 wounds, you can run 2 wounds and toughness, which will just, give you a little bit more front end toughness to start with before you start taking the damage you need for martyrdom to start working as it should do. Now, let's talk about martyrdom very, very quickly. A lot of people seem to think that martyrdom is only to be used in clutch, air quotes, situations. That is not how it works. It is not an holy crap button that you use to suddenly become superpowered when things have gone wrong. No, you want to maintain that level of damage for as long as you can throughout most of the mission. It isn't a feel no pain kind of situation. You want to be low on health for as long as you can to get all of the benefits. So please don't think that this is, you want to be at max health the entire run and only go down when something bad has happened. That is not how martyrdom works at all. Let's jump into the talents. First, we will go for Anointed in Blood, up to 25% base range damage, reduce the further you are from the target. Mag dumping. Purge the Unclean, plus 20% increased damage against infested and unyielding enemies. That's a few of the maniacs and the bosses. Backstabber, plus 20% damage on melee backstab hits. Blood Redemption, plus 100% toughness replenishment on melee kill. Into toughness boost, into second wind. Replenish 15% toughness on successful dodge. Do keep an eye on everything that says successful dodge because there are a lot of them in this tree. Enduring Faith, plus 50% toughness damage reduction on critical hit for 4 seconds. We're taking Blade of Faith, which is a very powerful throwing knife that you can use to snipe specials if you don't have time to get out your ranged weapon. And do keep in mind that Blades of Faith do inherit all of your crit chance. So all of the crit chance you're getting from the build, Blades of Faith can take advantage of. Then we're going down into toughness damage reduction and then into Dance of Death. Minus 75% spread and 50% recoil for 3 seconds on successful dodge. Now we don't care too much about this, but we do want the 2 nodes in front of it. Thy Wrath be swift, enemy melee attacks cannot stun you on taking damage, gain 15% movement speed for 2 seconds. And then Good Balance, a successful dodge grants 25% damage reduction for 2.5 seconds. We're going to be stacking passive damage resistance so that when we are getting down to that low health, we become tougher and tougher. So it may look sketchy that you're only on 1 wound and low health, or, you know, I don't mean lose all of your wounds as in go down 15 times. No, lose the health and stay at full wounds. But as you get lower, you will start becoming tougher, because that's how Martyrdom works. Then across here to Toughness boost, and then into melee damage boost, and then we're grabbing movement speed, and then into Duelist. Plus 50% weak spot critical hit damage for 3 seconds on successful dodge. Into Until Death, fatal damage instead grants you invulnerability for 5 seconds, can only occur every 2 minutes. Into Holy Revenant, when Until Death ends, you regain health based upon the damage you dealt during Until Death to a maximum of 25% max health. I really hate this. You used to be able to heal up to full, but oh well. Melee damage dealt heals for 3 times the amount. That doesn't mean it heals up to 75% max health, it just means killing things in melee makes you heal faster. So range damage will just be normal, melee damage 3 times faster to the maximum of 25% max health. Then Benediction, plus 15% toughness damage reduction for you and allies' incoherency, down into Toughness boost, and then Fear of the Faithful. Dash forward, replenishing 50% toughness and gaining 20% attack speed for 10 seconds. Your next melee hit gains 25% damage and is a guaranteed critical hit. Base cooldown is 30 seconds. And then Redoubled Zeal gives us 2 charges of this. Now, you all probably know this, but Redoubled Zeal does give you a guaranteed critical hit, so it's always good to use this as you're launching your way into the enemies. And also, it's a good way to get out of danger as well. And then into Suppression Boost. We don't care about this, but we need to get across to the middle. This is basically a wasted point, but oh well. Toughness damage reduction into Faithful Frenzy, which has given us plus 10% melee attack speed, down into Health Boost for 10% health. Then we're picking up Faith's Fortune for 2 wounds. And last but not least, we are grabbing Martyrdom, plus 8% melee damage for each missing wound up to a maximum of 7 missing wounds. I Shall Not Fall, Martyrdom grants plus 6.5% toughness damage reduction per missing wound. And then Maniac. Martyrdom grants 4% attack speed per missing wound. So as you stay around here in health, I'm not saying make all of these purple and get yourself killed. I'm saying lose the health and then go about your business. You will become tougher and do lots and lots more damage. Martyrdom is not there as a safety net to only be used when things are going wrong. Martyrdom is there to be taken advantage of for the entire fight. So, that's how it kind of works in a very Cliff Notey kind of way. But there you go, folks. That is the updated Martyrdom build. I do hope you enjoy it. And if you do, please do like, subscribe, ring that bell for notifications. It really does help us out. And I shall see you all for the next one, which will no doubt be either an Ogren build or an updated build for the new patch. So until then, take it easy, and I shall see you later.